What is up, my friends, and how's it going? And welcome back to the 5th episode of our Let's Play series as the Sweboz with your fellow comrade Summary. In the previous episode, we managed to invade Raetia at Noricum, securing the entirety of the province for ourselves. We even managed to gain a foothold in Cisalpine Gaul by conquering the settlements of Patavium as well as made land. In the turn between turns, I have gone ahead and recomposed my armies. The NATO's barbarian reforms have triggered, so I have replaced some of the outdated units with the reformed units, of course. And in the turn between turns, Roma has expanded quite significantly. As you can see, they've almost wiped out the Carthaginians. We have managed to secure a peace agreement with the Carthaginians. We have most of the known world around the Mediterranean discovered. Of course, even the Iceni have managed to expand a little bit, and they are in a grueling war against the Averni. We had initiated a poll on the YouTube communities in which there were 4 routes of attack possible. I could focus on the east and take out the Scordisci, who are currently locked in a brutal war against the Scythians, or I could focus on the northwestern regions, either taking out the Iceni or the Averni. And I was a little bit worried about this western frontier, to be honest, because I do not want any one of the factions getting too powerful. As you can see, the Iceni have started to push into formerly held Averni territory by conquering the settlement of Vesontio. However, the Averni have managed to push back and have managed to conquer quite a significant portion of Gallia itself. And as it seems for now, the Averni have more armies in the region. I have backed the Iceni in the sense that I have established a defensive alliance with them, and that is to protect my western frontier. Meanwhile, I don't have any alliance agreements with the Scordisci or the Scythians, so things could end up bad over here in the east. But for now, they're fairly friendly, and we have trade agreements, non-aggression, as well as military access with these couple of factions. However, as most of you know, in the voting, it was Roma that won the vote, and I know that many of you suggested that I shouldn't go after Roma, that I should let them grow to be quite a powerful size. But just take a look at Roma. It's already a pretty powerful size, and at this size they will easily have about 8 to 10 armies, and all I can muster or field is about 3 armies, as you will see shortly. So it's going to be a very interesting fight against Roma. I'm hoping that this deadlock continues between the Iceni and the Averni. However, if the deadlock is broken either which way, that means that even after defeating Roma, this campaign will be quite interesting, because I will have quite a sizable Iceni or quite a sizable Averni faction to face off against. So this campaign is far from over, even after I defeat Roma, of course. And I think the objective over here is to try to conquer the entirety of Italia. If we can do so within this episode, it might be a little bit too difficult, because of course that initial push is going to be tough. We are eventually also going to try to take over Africa from the Romans itself, and then the most ideal thing we can focus on is of course gaining Hispania, because Hispania is a really good economic province. However, with that, let's just hop back into the campaign, and before we do that, we're just going to have a look at our political situation. You can see all of our political rivals are very loyal. They're about 20 loyalty and above, so that means we have absolutely no chance of a secession or a civil war. We can go ahead and promote some characters, of course, so that we get even more benefits to our taxation and empire maintenance and so forth. As far as our family tree is concerned, it's growing quite well, and our influence is beloved, so we're getting the best possible modifiers from our influence. As far as Imperium is concerned, we're about almost halfway towards Imperium level 5, which is the most Imperium level, important Imperium level in my opinion, because then we will be able to are we already Imperium level 5? That's interesting. No, we're not. So I'm kind of wondering how we can actually do this, because we are not Imperium level 5. We have the positive loyalty. We're actually Imperium level 4, unless I'm seeing things wrong. Yeah, we're Imperium level 4. I mean, Imperium level 5, we should have 12 armies as an army cap. However, Yeah, it seems to be a kind of a bug. However, looking at our family tree, you can see it's grown quite massively, and I was in the dilemma of having an appropriate heir. My heir, Fried, wasn't really good. He was philosophic, which isn't all that bad. However, in the meantime, one of our characters came of age. He is cheerful, which means I will get a lot of bonuses. What's more is that he's really young. He's 17. So, you know, he will be of an ideal age. Let's say 17 to 42, that's 25 years apart. So by the time this guy is 60, he should only be about 35, which is quite a good age difference. We did have some other good characters like Folko over here with the Virtuous, as well as Childebrand with, of course, the Magnanimous as well. But both of these characters are quite old, 41 and 41, just a 1 year difference from our faction leader. So that means when our faction leader dies, it's very likely that they will succeed him if we choose them as his heir. However, they will die shortly after that, and then we could reach into political turmoil. So you want to make sure there's quite a significant age difference between your faction leader and your faction heir, so that when your faction leader passes away, your heir has enough time to be at the helm of things. With that being said, we have gone ahead and leveled up a lot of our characters. We have done it actually in this turn just before I resumed the video, of course. So there's not much else to do. We're just going to check if we can educate any characters, and we can't really do that for now. And before we hop into the episode itself, let's take a quick look at our economy. As you can see, our economy is looking really good. We have about almost 500,000 denarii in the treasury. We're making 32,000 denarii per turn, which is really, really good. I would say we're right in the mid game at this point. And of course, Lugia, you can see, is making 33,000 denarii per turn. I have reconstituted the province to be focusing on commercial. I was intending for it to be an economic province in terms of industry. However, I realized that commerce is much more lucrative, and what's more is that we have the local market building, which actually also improves the commerce wealth by a further 16%. So that is pretty good, and of course it also gives +4 growth per turn, which means we can get some insane growth rate in Lugia itself. As you can see, it's making 50 growth per turn. If we take a quick look at the growth rate, region growth rate, there we have it. Lugia is at 84% growth. Of course, it can't compete with our military provinces. Military provinces tend to be the highest growth provinces just simply because we can focus on enclosed settlements, which gives a +4 growth per turn. And of course, if we get the level 4, we get +8 growth per turn. And apart from that, we can also focus on the Shaman's Hut, which gives not only sanitation, it also gives a +8 growth per turn, public order, as well as Germanic cultural influence. Apart from that, both of these settlements actually improve our population, so they're really good to have in military recruitment provinces. As you can see, Swabia is making 59 growth per turn. Meanwhile, Ratiat Noricum is making 57, which is really, really good, guys. So that is pretty much how I set up my military provinces. I focus on that growth rate so I can get more buildings out. And of course, by making these buildings, we can also get a good level of population 1 and population 2. As you can see, we're actually losing on population class 3, and I don't really mind because I really want to have more population class 1 and 2. You can see how this setup is really going to, in the future, affect. I mean, just take a look at Vistula. We have 16,000 Duguntos, or population class 2. So it's going to be really easy to recruit from this province. And meanwhile, the same thing is happening in Ratiat Norica. However, having been recently conquered, of course, you're going to have a lot of foreign population, but it is on the decline, which means it will give us about enough time for our first and second class populations to grow. And actually, if you take a look at it, it's quite respectable in terms of how much population we have in this region, of course. Yeah, so apart from that, we have 2 food provinces for now, just temporary food provinces. Magna Germania, of course, making that food, and we also have Herkinia making some food. So things are looking quite good as far as our realm balance is concerned. Cisalpina is going to be purely a resource and research rate focused province. However, that's done with the long intro. We are now going to declare war against the Romans. I have gone ahead and broken off all my agreements with the Romans. I don't think there's enough turns for me to kind of avoid the diplomatic malice from declaring war prematurely, but this seems to be the best time to do so. And speaking of our provinces, of course, our more recently conquered provinces, both of them have been culturally converted to Germanic culture, which means once I conquer Janua, I should be able to gain the population within Janua, which is fairly decent. I mean, still a lot of foreign population class. However, once I manage to conquer it, that will be flipped around. And speaking of cultural conversion, we have sent our dignitaries down south into the province of Latium. We're trying to culturally convert it in preparation for our eventual invasion of Latium. One of the good things about a war with Rome is actually conquering this settlement of Alalia. It might not seem like much, but it has that iron resource, and we can actually build a shield maker over here. And you guys must be wondering, why a shield maker, since we already have the armorer or shield maker over here, and we have the weaponsmith up here in the north. The idea is we're going to retain the shield maker, or we are going to dismantle the shield maker, and we're going to relocate it to Alalia, and then we can actually replace the shield maker with a out enclosed settlement, which will further boost the growth rate over here. So as you can see, slowly as the game progresses, we are going to try to keep readjusting our provinces to be maximized. I know there are many ways to play the game. You can choose, if you like, to play in a more balanced fashion, where you have a province that serves every purpose as food generation, recruitment, economy. However, I like to specialize my provinces, especially so as to keep my potential really high. As you can see, with our military provinces, I have no worries whatsoever. As far as population is concerned, I can recruit anything. With our economic provinces, again, no concern whatsoever. Right now, the major concern is, of course, our food provinces. The more we expand, and the more we level up our buildings, especially the main settlement buildings, they consume a lot of food, especially this level 3 building. As you can see, minus 12 food, and we're actually currently doing the research, the large defense, to actually upgrade this building. And minus 12 food to 23, that's going to be 11 food surplus, which is really cutting it close, guys. However, once I conquer Latium, and especially if I conquer Sicily, I will be able to resolve my food situation quite nicely. Apart from dignitaries culturally converting Latium, we also have a couple of spies down south here, just to get a line of sight of what's going on with Roma. Yeah, so let's go ahead and declare this war. And before we do that, we're going to take a quick look at our armies, of course. And as far as our armies are concerned, something seems to be off with this army in particular. I think it's actually got an extra unit of cavalry. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to disband one of this cavalry, and I am going to actually pull him back towards Octoturin. He might take some attrition by crossing the Alps when you see the snow over here. But what we are going to do is we are going to... That's interesting. I should be able to recruit... That's a bit weird. Why can't I recruit... Something seems to be off. I should be able to recruit Cherusci Axemen.
For the tribe!
And Cherusci Assault Infantry rather, and that's a little bit weird, a little bit strange. I don't know why that is. However, actually, you know what, guys? I'm just going to pause the video right here. I'm going to see what the issue is, and then I'm going to hop back into the video. Alright, guys, welcome back. And I am a bit of an idiot. I realized why I can't really get the Cherusci Assault Infantry, and that's because although the Nitos reforms triggered, and in that turn I kind of recruited all of the Cherusci Assault Infantry I needed, I actually haven't researched the unit upgrades. So let's go ahead and just research all of this so that we can build those units as quickly as possible. However, we will have to wait a turn before we can do that, but we can initiate our assault against Roma, of course. Speaking of our armies, we have gone ahead and readjusted the army composition. We have Spectre armies to have no more pikemen. We're really focusing on that melee capability. As you can see, we still have the champions of Tivas. We have the Hari Knight Strikers. These are shock melee troops. We even have the Hari Nightwalkers, which are the only spear units in the army, with the exception, of course, of the Swaby veteran skirmishers. We still have our Swaby archers, a little bit of a downer unit, this one, because it's not that great as an archer unit, and eventually I will be looking to get some more better archers from AOR or mercenary units if I can afford to do so. Apart from that, we have converted all of our general's bodyguard into the cavalry, so that it is much better than, of course, having an infantry unit. And we have gone ahead and gotten some mercenary cavalry. We've gotten Belgae mercenary heavy cavalry from the Belgic provinces. Of course, we have military access through the Iceni, so in the turns between the episodes, I managed to move to Treverorum, recruit a couple of these mercenaries, of course. And of course, in some of the other armies, as you know, we still have the Sarmatian cataphracts all the way from Lugia. And in the final army that's waiting over here in ambush stance, we have the mercenary Volke veteran riders that can be recruited from the province of Narbonensis. Since we do also have military access with the Massilians, we managed to get access and you recruit up these mercenary units. Now these units are also quite good because they do have the Maripos horse entry, as do of course the Belgae mercenary heavy lancers. They also have the Maripos entry, so they are really powerful. And then of course I need to convince you guys of how good these Sarmatian cataphracts are. Of course it is debatable which cavalry unit is the best. These two have Maripos entry, so they're going to have a really big charge. However, these guys have better stats in terms of their charge bonus, and of course their armor is absolutely insane at 56. That being said, we have three armies. We have Harja's three Katijos led by Hardowich, which is actually our faction heir. We have Harja's two Tenkterijos led by Folko, who has been our second in command really so far in the series, and he is waiting in an ambush stance in the forests that lead up to Patavium. We're hoping to catch some Roman armies off guard. Right now, in a war against the Romans, they will have two routes of attack. They will have to pass through this narrow forest towards Patavium, or they will eventually have to pass through these forests over here towards Janua. So that's going to be the play. We're going to try to lure in as many Roman armies, beat them out, grind them down. We have a couple of Roman armies in Roma, and there might be some all the way down south over here in Sicily. We'll have to explore how it goes. However, with that is actually the game plan. We have three armies, so this army over here is going to go ahead and attack Janua. Meanwhile, we have Harjas 1 Sweboz, led by our faction leader Baldwin, who's done quite well for himself. Of course, we're going to wait for the turn to end before we can get that final level of Cheruski assault infantry. He currently has just 5 of them, just making sure that we have 6, and that's about right. So without any further ado, let's go ahead, declare the war against Roma. We have a military alliance with the Ptolemies as well as the Iveriu, which means the Romans and the Ptolemies will be at war in North Africa, which should be a decent distraction for the Romans while we kind of crush them in from both sides. So it's very strategic because we have this frontier over here and we have this northern frontier. So the Romans are going to be pushed down from the southeast and from the northwest. So things are looking quite good. Meanwhile, they're already in a war with almost everyone in Hispania. And the good thing is, if we can conquer Hispania from the Romans, we will gain a significant boost to our economy. However, we have spent a lot of time explaining the situation and so forth. So let's go ahead and declare this war. We also have an alliance with the Iveriu military alliance. I have managed to make a military alliance with them just in case the Iceni decide to backstab me. We could create a true front situation once again against the Iceni in the future, where we can attack them from both sides from, of course, our Germanian heartlands, and of course hope that the Iveriu attack them from Caledonia at Ibernia. Let's go ahead, declare this war. Of course, our diplomatic rating has taken a hit. We are now trustworthy, which isn't all that bad. But we're going to go ahead and attack this settlement or this garrison of Janua. We're going to quick save over here. I'm going to hop into the battle, although of course it is a garrison fight, so it shouldn't be all that hard. But we're going to take a look at our new army, of course. Alright my friends, welcome to the first battle against Roma. We are fighting against the garrison of Janua. I've gone ahead and arranged my army in a typical format. We have our Sweboz veteran skirmishers out in the front. Let me just quickly bring up the tooltip. We even have our archers behind them, and of course behind them we have our main front line, which is consisting of Cherusci assault infantry. Keep in mind we are no longer playing with the Cherusci pikemen, as has been requested, to solely rely on melee focused armies, of course. In the flanks we have our flanking shock units, such as our champions of Tevas, as well as of course we have our Hari Knight Strikers, and of course we also have the Hari Knight Walkers, which are a spear version of the Hari Knight Strikers. On the flanks we have our cavalry, of course we have our general, and we also have a unit of Reme Maripos, and it's pretty much the same on the opposite flank. So we are going with a typical formation that I've started to like. Of course we have our core immediate left flank and far left flank, and over here straight up I noticed that a cavalry is trying to charge towards my general, so I'm going to try to intercept him as best as I can, try to break his charge, and let's have a quick look and see how that goes. Of course we have gone ahead and charged over here. We've gotten a very good charge, and we're getting even a rare charge with our own general unit, so things are looking quite great. Of course it is a garrison fight, so there's not that much the enemy can do against our army. They will not have troops that will be able to hold out against our army, but we are going to try our level best to fight this battle as efficiently as possible. As you can see, this cavalry is already losing decisively, and this is how I recommend you guys use your cavalry. You try to flank the enemy cavalry as much as you can, try to hit them from both sides so that you take a lot of losses. You want to minimize your time in combat, of course, with the enemy, so that you can quickly free up your own cavalry to perform flanking as well as rear charge maneuvers. Quick look at the battlefield. Of course I am arraying my units in a formation to encounter the enemy, and we have gone ahead and put up all our skirmishers in the rear to protect them, of course, from a from the impending melee attack. We are going to go ahead and throw all our precursor javelins with our Cherusci assault infantry, and then we are going to issue the order to charge into the enemy. Of course these guys have a lot of armor piercing, so they're going to be able to do quite a lot of damage. You can see the chaos of all the missile units just unleashing into the enemy front line. On the immediate right flank, you can see that we have already begun our flanking maneuver. We're wasting absolutely no time in trying to flank and surround the enemy, of course. And over here we have our Cherusci assault infantry as well, part of our front line that is free, so we are pretty much just going to use them to try to encircle the enemy. We are also moving our cavalry on the far right flank, trying to get around the enemy position over here. Meanwhile, you can see that our flanking maneuver, we are starting with that immediate left flank as well, trying to get around the enemy. Same thing's happening with that immediate right flank. Meanwhile, just cavalry over here is going to try to screen and protect from this incoming naval reinforcement. However, as you can see, very quickly we are going to try to surround the enemy. We have gone ahead and put our champions of Tevas to flank the enemy over here in the sides. Of course, it is their shielded side, but still they're going to be able to do quite a lot of damage against this enemy and force them to run, and that's because they have that fear ability, which is really, really powerful, guys. Over here, as you can see, very nicely we've managed to surround the enemy, so that's what we're exactly going to try to do. It seems like the enemy right flank is a little bit easier to approach. The left flank has a lot more units and is a little bit more congested for us. However, we're going to try our best to isolate each and every single unit so that we can flank them and crush their morale, of course. We have our Hari Knight Strikers over here just waiting to charge into the enemy, so let's just go ahead and have a quick look at let's just go ahead and have a quick look at the charge. We have a beautiful charge into the backs of this unit. This unit should quickly rout as a result of it having already routed. As you can see, some of our Hari Knight Walkers already begun to cheer, and that unit has not just routed, it's completely shattered. So we're just continuing to keep moving, keep our maneuverability as high as possible, try to keep surrounding the enemy unit as much as we can. We do have a last remaining unit of quite medium swordsmen over there that we will have to try to break in order to relieve some of our immediate left flank. However, for the most part, battle's looking really great. We have nothing really to fear. We only have the naval reinforcements, which should be quite easy to deal with. Yeah, just a bunch of light melee units, 69 each, so not that threatening to be honest. However, what remains, of course, is a couple of units that are over here that have decided to join the battle a little bit delayed in comparison. And we are going to try our level best to surround them as well. So we have another unit of Jerusalem assault infantry crashing into the flanks of this unit, trying to inflict some severe morale penalty. And there you have it. We're going to go ahead and, in fact, charging is just so powerful in this game, because especially if you're charging into the unshielded side, you're going to be doing a lot of damage initially, and you can easily break an enemy unit, as you can see over here, with that initial charge, of course. And with that, of course, we have routed the entire enemy army, and we have won the siege for Janua, conquering our very first Roman settlement. And with that, we have conquered our first settlement of Janua. We are going to peacefully occupy it because it is Germanic culture, part of which has also increased in rank. So let's go ahead and give him some abilities. Of course, we're going to focus on the army upkeep, and then we are going to focus on that replenishment rate as well. And finally, we can get one of these abilities as well. So perfect, things are looking good. He should be able to replenish by the end of the turn. Unfortunately, our population class 1 champions of Tivas took the brunt of the damage in that battle. Not sure why that was, but however, most of our army performed really well, and it was a very decisive victory. Let's quickly go ahead and repair some of these buildings. We can dismantle this one, and we can go ahead and dismantle a couple of these buildings. We are going to focus, of course, we can actually focus on the sanitation growth rate, or we could actually go for an outpost, which is what I'm thinking we should do. However, with that, we can go ahead and end the turn, and I will see you all in the next turn, or in the future rather, when we are ready to push our offensive into Latium, of course. Meanwhile, up north over here, we have Lotus 1 Sweboz that is dealing with the piracy situations all around, just defeated a Britannic pirates. So we're actually going to go ahead all the way over here to defeat the Germanic pirates as well, before retreating back into the port of Flevum. Since we actually control the port of Janua, we can technically recruit another character, another fleet that we can dock in the region. Of course, we're going to take a look at all of our characters, see which one actually has it. This guy has wealth from all sources, so he's pretty good. Apart from that, this guy has a +9 tax rate, which is also really good. This guy is not so good. Meanwhile, this guy is just about the gravitas. A 9 tax rate, so some really nice characters really to choose from. So we have the character of Nevelung, apart from that Theobald, as well as Merovech, and we're going to select possibly the youngest of the lot. And what is the secondary bonus? Province construction cost, so nothing really that great. I think 15% wealth from all sources is actually really good. All of them are really good in my opinion, of course, but the 15% wealth is a flat out increase to the wealth. So we're going to go with Merovech and raise him as a fleet, of course. There we have it, Merovech. Go ahead, raise a fleet. Put him into the port of Janua, and hopefully he should be able to level up a little bit. Of course, we have some more characters over here, such as Hartned, that has been leveling up in preparation for our second economic province, and of course we even have Gisselford up here that is also been leveling up. So that's the focus. We're going to try our level best to keep leveling up some characters, so the minute we gain another economic province, we can immediately just go ahead and relocate all of these governor and admiral generals to manage that province. As of now, of course, the two options for our economic province is going to be Gallia, of course, and of course Hispania. So we're quite a ways off from acquiring that second economic province. If, of course, we had decided to attack Gallia, we would have gotten access to that second economic province. However, we are going to be attacking Roma instead, which is rather unfortunate as far as economy is concerned. But nonetheless, we're going to try to take over Hispania also as quickly as possible. I mean, controlling Sicilia, Africa, and Hispania will really put our faction in a strong position, because we will have two food provinces, really good food provinces, especially Africa as a barbarian is one of the best food provinces you can possibly control. And then of course, if we also have Hispania, we have two economic provinces. For now, the province of Lugia will suffice. We're making 33,000 denarii per turn, but very soon when we are able to upgrade some of the main settlement buildings, we will be starved a little bit for food. And of course, once we hit that Imperium level 5, which is not going to be that too far away off, we will be able to recruit at least 4 more armies. And of course, 4 more armies means we will be having more than double the army expenditure. And as you can see, the army expenditure is currently at 12. So if we subtract another 12,000 from this, we will be making about 19,000 denarii per turn, which isn't all that bad, but it's still kind of less for the mid game. However, with that, let's go ahead, end the turn, and I will see you all in the future. Alright, welcome to a couple of turns into the future. Let's go ahead and level up all of our characters. We have a champion over here that has leveled up. We can go ahead and get some abilities for him. Meanwhile, even the commander of Harjas 2 Tencterijos has leveled up. Let's go ahead, get the skilled tactician as well as the dread commander. Apart from that, no other character has been leveled up. Quick look at all of our settlements. We have gone ahead and dismantled the building in Janua, and that actually gives us a good amount of garrison. So what you want to do is actually repair the culturally inappropriate building over here and then dismantle it. So in about 2 turns you will get a decent sized garrison, and then you can start building it up from the ground or from the scratch back up. These 2 buildings, of course, we're going to go for an outpost as well as a shaman's hut eventually, so as to maximize our growth rate in the province of Cisalpina itself. Our faction leader in charge of Harjas 1, Sweboz, has built that last unit of Cheruski Axemen. We're going to move down south towards Janua with him. Meanwhile, our army in ambush under our faction heir has been discovered by this minuscule army. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to attack him real quick, and if he retreats, then he's kind of retreated out of the control. However, I won't be able to push up towards that area, so what I'm going to do is just redeploy him back into an ambush stance, and the idea will be to eventually just push towards Arretium. Of course, fighting over Latium will trigger the Italy in turmoil, and Romans will get an additional army. However, if I conquer Roma in the same turn, I can avoid that from triggering. However, that's going to be tough to achieve with just 3 armies. Meanwhile, quick look at our politics. Most of our political characters have leveled up completely. We're just going to keep doing that. Meanwhile, we can even educate a child. So let's go ahead, educate that child. And one of the most important things with your faction heir is you want him to have the maximum gravitas of any of the potential candidates that could be an heir. And as you can see, he's slightly behind this guy. So we are going to, do some abilities that actually gives him a bit more gravitas, and that is actually send a gift. Gives +2 gravitas for the initiator, of course, and we're going to send a gift to the least loyal political party. And as you can see, he's been bumped up from 162 to 164 gravitas, and this might not seem like much, but over time, in about 10 turns, it's about 20 gravitas, which is actually really good. It's almost as good. It is, in fact, as good as this household trait, the Age Retainer, giving +2 gravitas per turn. Of course, if you send a gift, you can gain an additional 2 gravitas per turn. You can do this multiple times, but for each consecutive time you're paying more and more, so it's ideally the best to just do a political action once per turn. And of course, as you can see, we have also given him the +4 gravitas per turn noble steel household trait, so he's gaining about +8 gravitas per turn. So in about 8 turns he should gain about 80 gravitas, which would put him at about 240 gravitas. Meanwhile, just making sure that this character doesn't have any gravitas gaining abilities. There we have it. He does have this one, so we're going to try to balance that by actually giving him the Roman exile, which actually gives +8 melee attack for all units against battles against Romans, which is actually really good. Apart from that, quick look at the north. As you can see, we are going to be engaging the Germanic pirate fleet. They're going to retreat a little bit, but we are going to keep pushing, and it should be quite a good, decent auto-resolve. We're going to lose a couple of ships in the process, but I don't really care. Barbarian fleets are really, really bad, so there's nothing much you can do about it. Meanwhile, armor, I really don't know what I should be getting as a barbarian ships, to be honest. But let's just go for the armor and health for all of our ships. And then what we are going to do is we're going to move back towards Flavum as best as we can. And then we're going to recruit a couple more of the ships that we lost in that battle, of course. This character, maybe we can promote him. Just a quick look to see if we can promote any of our characters, beginning with, of course, our political rivals, and then working our way down towards any of our own characters. Of course, if you do this multiple times per turn, you are paying incremental costs. However, I don't really care that much. Right. Perfect. Yes, this is what I want to do. I want to build the Grove of Frigios in Swabia. The reason being is that it gives me extra growth per turn, which is what I'm really trying to do. Try to maximize my growth per turn as much as possible. Quick look at all of our provinces to make sure that we are building everything that we need. We have gone ahead and built this commons, so we have a lot of options that we can go with here. Of course, the Chieftain's Hold is really good because it decreases banditry. It gives ranks for dignitaries upon recruitment, which means if our dignitary in the province kind of dies, we will be able to replace him with a dignitary that has some level up from the get-go, which is kind of good because it kind of dampens the effect of losing a dignitary on your economy. However, another good option is, of course, the farmers market, because it does give wealth from local commerce, as well as it gives a boost to your local commerce of 8. The main difference between these two, I would say that the Great Hall is more powerful because it gives plus 12 tax rate, which applies to the entire province. Meanwhile, the Great Fair does give 400 wealth from local commerce, as well as 16% wealth from all commerce. However, it only affects commerce related, whereas tax rate affects everything. But for now, we don't have much of a choice because we really don't have that much food, so we will have to go for the farmers market. And what's more is that we actually haven't researched anything in the warrior code technology tree, so we can't really build that even if we wanted to. So let's just go ahead and build the farmers market over there to improve our economy in the province of Lugia. Of course, Lugia is pulling in 34,000 denarii, making 36,000 denarii. We have hit that 500,000 mark, so things are looking quite good for us. However, with that, let's go ahead and end the turn, and we'll see you in the next turn. As you can see, the Latin cultural influence of Latium is decreasing. It started out at 60%, but thanks to our dignitaries who are working tirelessly, we are dropping it. And what's more is that we actually have some Germanic culture over here, although there's no way of telling how much. It's going to be quite significant once we eventually decide to invade the province. Alright, there you have it. In the end turn, this army has decided to attack me. All I'm going to do is simply auto-resolve this, because it's going to be a fairly easy auto-resolve. Should be able to wipe out that small army. And yeah, but that all is good. The turn will progress. We've defeated a Roman army. We're going to go ahead and enslave all the captives, and I will see you all in the next turn. Welcome to the next turn. Let's go ahead and turn off all of the notifications. Pirates have been spotted, so we can't really catch a break. Meanwhile, this dignitary has leveled up. We can get the banditry reduction in that province, because if we actually get banditry where we lose taxation in Lugia, we will be in a significant deficit of income. Meanwhile, we can get some abilities over here for this army. Well, let's go ahead, select all of the army traditions that we need. We're just going to focus on what really matters. I think the Fura Germanicus and yeah, pretty much the Fura Germanicus and the Frontier Conquerors is what we need. So let's actually go for that. And there we have it. Perfect. Next up, we take a look at our politics once again. We can, with our factionaire, improve the loyalty over there. Quick look to see if we can promote any of the characters. Can't really do that right now. Meanwhile, she is finally a 10-10-10. So what remains is actually promoting this character. So let's actually go ahead praise her to improve her zeal, and then we can also send her on a vacation to improve her cunning. So there we have it. Perfect. Quick look at our faction leader. Can't really educate anyone. Meanwhile, that army has been wiped out, as you know, from the previous turn. So I think it could be a good time to invade into Roma. Quick look to see if we can actually reach all the way to Roma, and we can't because of it being winter. So that is rather unfortunate. What we're going to do is something really interesting. We're going to move our faction leader a little bit up ahead, put him in ambush stance, put this guy in ambush stance as well, and hopefully if this army marches up there, he's going to be absolutely obliterated in the end turn, which means it's going to be even easier to push down south into Latium. Of course, still culturally converting, as you can see, 52% Latium culture, which is really great. And with that, let's just take a quick look at, of course, all of our provinces. All of the buildings seem to be fine. The pirates, I'm guessing, is the Britannic pirates, and wow, that is a massive fleet. So we're just going to keep moving up ahead. Just check to see if we can recruit some ships, and we can, so we might as well merge a couple of these ships and go ahead, recruit a couple more ships. That will just help get our fleet back to full strength even faster. However, with that, I don't think there's much else left to do in the turn. We're just going to have a quick look to see if we can establish any trade agreements, and I think we can. The Hague might not want a trade agreement with us. They're usually a very tough nut to crack. However, the Aquitani might be interested. It doesn't seem like they are. Alright, fair enough. With that, let's just go ahead, end the turn, and I will see you all in the next turn. Welcome to the next turn. Two factions have joined the war against Roma, and that is because in the end turn I paid them in order to do so, which is kind of good. Even the Lusitanians are at war with Roma, which means Roma will actually consolidate a lot of Hispania. They're actually growing at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, everyone over here in the Hellenic world is at war against Roma, which is great. Maybe we can even get the Spartans to join the war against Roma. Let's see.
So if you
what do we have here? Join the war against Roma. What if I pay you? Because, you know, no. Alright, so they're not interested just yet. They're a little bit unfriendly, which is rather surprising. Meanwhile, the Ptolemies have made some progress into Africa itself. But, of course, the Romans are going to beat them if the Romans decide to do that. They do have a sizable army over here, full stack, and another full stack. So they might actually take out Africa, which means our conquest against Roma might have to focus with Sicily and then Hispania, if in case the Ptolemies take over Africa, which kind of makes things a little bit easier for us. However, with that, let's take a quick look at our provinces. We can go ahead and upgrade that food building, which kind of helps with our food situation, which is the priority right now. We are struggling a little bit when it comes to food. Apart from that, we can take a look at our politics. Of course, we have this character over here that we will need to promote so that we can get some more zeal with her. Of course, I'm not going to send her on a vacation because she will get 9 cunning, which means it will be very difficult to upgrade that character. Quick look at our faction leader. Nothing much he can do over there. He seems to be leveled up. All of the characters might have been promoted already, so there's not much to do over there. Unfortunately, one of the things I've noticed with heirs, because especially they're so young, it's difficult to promote them because you have an age requirement for promotions. But as soon as they hit that age requirement, it's going to be easier to promote them. So let's just go ahead and make sure that we do a favor so that we get a little bit more gravitas. 185. We are slowly but surely catching up to Childebrand in terms of gravitas, so we are securing our legitimacy as the heir of the Sweboz. However, with that, we are going to have to attack Roma in Latium. This is a little bit of a precarious situation because if we can take over Arretium, keep in mind we are playing as the Germanic factions, which means we can engage in night battles, and if we do so, we can easily just take out Arretium. However, the drawback of that is in the end turn, Roma will get another army from that event, and then 2 armies attacking us on either side is going to be pretty bad news for us. So we definitely have to deal with this army that's kind of strategically positioned over here on the river. Meanwhile, this army over here, if we manage to consolidate our position in Arretium, should be able to push towards Ariminum. So the way to do this, I feel, is to actually go ahead and take out Arretium, which actually has just 17-man garrison, and then we have this army isolated. We will be able to reinforce the army over here, so I think that's the play. Hopefully these guys are not, they are actually blocking me over there, so it's really interesting. So I guess we have to attack these guys first, which is rather unfortunate. So let's just go ahead and do that. They are fortified, which is much of a problem. We could try to see if we move a little bit closer, and then maybe we can use this guy to at least try to assassinate the character. Sabotage army. What does this do? Destroy ammunition. Let's try destroy ammunition, and it's kind of failed. That's fine. Let's move up with the other army. It's a decent auto result, but then again we will have that massive army at the end of the day, so we're gonna go ahead, night attack, quick save over here, hop into the battle. It's our faction leader against a Roman army. They don't have a lot of missile units, just a Cretan archer and a Velites, but they do have a lot of melee units, so they might be kind of tempted to sally out of their fortifications. That's the best we can hope for. However, with that, let's just quick save, hop into the battle, and I will see you all in the battle. Alright, welcome to our second battle against Roma. Of course, we're facing off against a legion, a Roman legion this time, and they have a typical Polybian format with a lot of principes as well as triarii, but what they're lacking, long-range missile units, so they're going to sally forth as the AI normally does when it experiences a missile inferiority. And we are going to capitalize on that. We are kind of trying to position ourselves onto this hill in the wooded areas so that we take minimal missile damage. Of course, as trees kind of shield you from enemy missiles, so it's always a good idea to try to position your troops in dense forested areas so that you preserve the units against enemy missile fire. And what's more is that we actually have a slight terrain advantage in that our terrain is a little bit at an elevation, so that should make the attack of the Romans a little less devastating towards us. A quick look to see, of course, they do have a unit of war dogs. These guys can be absolutely insanely OP if left unchecked. They have a couple of cavalry units and of course a missile cavalry unit, so we're gonna have to see how we deal with that. But the best way to deal with missile cavalry is of course by using your infantry, or your missile infantry rather, in order to take them out. And by the looks of these guys, they look to be Tarantine missile cavalry. However, we are slowly waiting to see how the enemy lines up, and one of the major problems about the enemy sallying forth from their fortress is of course, they take a lot of time to come out of their fortress, and this kind of creates a unbreachable center line, if I were to say so. As you can see over here, it's kind of vague, but you can kind of see it over there. And what that means is going to be very hard to flank these units because they will not really be exposing their flanks. However, on that left flank, you can see that some of these units have dared to venture a little bit too close to my units, but they are going to regret that decision very soon. Meanwhile, I'm trying to pull back my missile units to prevent this cavalry from getting a charge off on those units, and unfortunately they do not manage to get back in time. But thankfully the cavalry decides to change the direction of their attack at the very last minute, and they kind of get caught up over here. And this is quite a dangerous situation for an enemy cavalry because they can't really retreat without taking significant losses. Meanwhile, you can see slowly but surely the enemy army is trickling in and trying to engage our front lines. We are in a heavily forested area, so we shouldn't be taking a lot of missile damage. And of course we have superior infantry. I wouldn't really go so far as to say superior infantry. They do have an advantage when it comes to armor as opposed to us, but we have armor penetration, which is a very good counter for what their strength is, so I'm not too concerned about how things will come out here for us. As you can see, the enemy missile cavalry is still looking quite strong. They're able to harass our front lines, but very soon I will issue orders for us to attack them with our missile infantry, and that should take care of things. Meanwhile, we are also busy moving our flanking units, our immediate right and left flank, which typically consists of all of our shock and fear units like the champions of Tivas, our Harry Knight strikers and Harry Knight walkers, to surround the enemy. Of course, you can see slowly but surely the enemy front lines is forming up and they're getting pinned down. The enemy general is all the way over there in a very weird, kind of a position. He's not really engaged, but he's really hard to engage ourselves, since of course that pathfinding is kind of messy and he's kind of spread out, which means even if you charge him, you will not get a very clean charge against him. Meanwhile, you can see the enemy cavalry on that right flank has been completely dealt with. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to exploit the situation over here, try to get rid of some of the enemy missile units. Although the enemy missile units will not pose a major threat to us, getting rid of them, of course, limits the damage that they can do to our own armies. And that is exactly what we're trying to do. I do notice the enemy melee units that are trying to approach us, mainly the Springape units. And although they are not going to pose a major threat to our cavalry, I decide to pull out anyways and let this archer unit kind of escape. And that is because I do not want to get our cavalry bogged down. We want to keep your cavalry as mobile as possible. Meanwhile, over here, we got lucky. We managed to actually catch up to this Tarantine cavalry. Keep in mind, they have a speed of 8, perhaps even 9 if they have the right buffs, which means they're going to be extremely fast. And we even managed to catch up to them with our light spear infantry, which have taken a bit of casualties from a lot of skirmishing, of course, but and there you have it. We even have our archers supporting over here, so very soon this unit of cavalry should be completely routed out, defeat all battle, and pretty much this is the only unit that posed a significant threat to our army. That being said, we are slowly but surely surrounding the enemy. There's no real cohesion in the enemy formation, as you can tell, and that actually is a good thing for us, because that means we are able to isolate every single enemy unit, surround them from all sides, shoot at them from all sides, and quickly and decisively break their morale and win the battle for ourselves. Of course, we have the enemy general that's finally making his way towards us, and we are going to try to react to that if we react at all. And there you have it. A little bit of a late reaction, but a late reaction is better than no reaction, of course. And we also have a unit of spearmen close by, so this cavalry is not going to do quite well against us. And there you have it, that cavalry is broken off well. With the general, of course, broken, the entire enemy army is going to flee. They are routing, and we have won the battle decisively. I do decide to continue the battle and try to rout out as many Roman units as I possibly can, but I don't try to wipe out the army, of course, because I do want to maintain a weakened Roman army rather than wipe out an army and allow for the enemy AI to raise a new army. So that is a strategy that I have employed before in my other Let's Play series, in which I'm trying to maintain our forward momentum by kind of keeping Roman armies weak rather than, or enemy armies weak rather than absolutely annihilating them and allowing them to recruit a brand new army. By basically destroying an army, you are enabling the enemy to rebuild an army, to open up an army cap slot for them. However, by weakening an army, then the enemy has to move into friendly territory, replenish and re-recruit the army, and that takes considerably more time, which allows you to make more significant gains in the campaign map, of course. However, with that, I'm going to go ahead, end the battle, and I will see you all back in the campaign. Alright, a rather decisive victory. Was not that easy. We lost around 500 men, but it's a pretty elitist army of the Romans, and we managed to almost wipe it out. We left a single unit of Velites, but we're going to go ahead and enslave off all the captives, and then we are going to push for Arretium. We could in fact just wipe out this army, to be honest, if we attack Arretium directly. Let's see if I think I'm kind of conflicted whether I should attack Arretium with the fresh army or with this army over here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to attack Arretium just like that with both armies and just auto-resolve it. Should be quite easy to do that, and yeah, it should be a very good auto-resolve. So let's just go ahead, auto-resolve this one, quickly take out Arretium. We're going to go ahead and sack the settlement, or sack it first, and then we are going to go ahead and loot the settlement as well. There we go. We have managed to gain a foothold in Latium, of course. We have taken the settlement of Arretium. Meanwhile, we could also just attack Ariminum now, which would be a good thing to do that. However, I think the play over here would kind of be to perhaps we can move our king back towards Janua. This guy is not taking that many losses, which means a new army shouldn't be able to do much against us. I think we go for Ariminum, guys. So let's just go ahead. We can auto-resolve this one as well. Should be quite an easy auto-resolve. We can sack the settlement once again, and then we can attack it once more. Should be a 100% auto-resolve with the second one. And we are going to go ahead and loot the settlement. There you have it. We're almost 600,000 denarii in the bank. We have 2 more new regions, and what we are going to do is repair all of the buildings if we can. And temporarily we are going to focus, of course, on making this into a food province, because we kind of need that going forward. So let's just go ahead and dismantle all of the buildings that we can. Definitely that seems to be right. This one over here we are repairing just to make sure, so that we can get that full garrison in the future. Meanwhile, what we are going to do is we're going to put our army over here into the port of Ariminum so that he can replenish in the end turn, and we're going to move our general back towards Janua and go ahead and put him in the patrol stance to maximize his replenishment. 1 turn, 2 turns, 2 turns. So in about 2 turns he should be fully replenished, and then we are going to try to push down south towards Roma. Our dignitary over here should no longer be tied because he just conquered the settlement of Ariminum, so we're going to keep moving him down south. Quick look at the province of Latium, of course, as just we want to make sure. As you can see, we have 16% Germanic culture, 35 influence versus the 19 influence of the Romans, which means we should be able to quickly cultural convert the province. Apart from that, we've done everything we need to do in this turn, so I'm going to go ahead, end the turn, and I will see you all in the future. We're going to keep moving our fleet down towards Flevum, of course, and eventually deal with this Britannic pirates, which is not going to be that easy. Of course, they're a huge pirate army or fleet, so it's not going to be easy. Maybe we might even lose that battle. However, we'll have to see how that pans out in the future. Alright guys, actually welcome to the end turn. Legio 11 Apollinaris. The army has spawned due to Italy in turmoil, and they're pretty solid army. They have some Pedites extraordinary, they have Equites extraordinary, general, of course, couple of Principe units as well as Socii units, a lot of Hastati units, so it's not really that balanced in terms of historical army composition, and some Velites, of course. We are going to go ahead and fight this battle, and since we actually have a disadvantage as far as cavalry is concerned, we are going to fight it in the settlement. I mean, we don't need to call in a large army because, of course, all of our garrison troops are actually really poor as far as the health is concerned. So we're going to quick save over here, hop into the battle. This should be the first most interesting battle of this episode. Of course, we are at a significant disadvantage. Our faction heir, if he loses his battle, is going to be wiped out, so it's really crucial that we win this battle. Alright, welcome to the third battle against the Romans, and of course we are defending the settlement of Arretium, which we have recently conquered. I have gone ahead and arranged my army in a defensive position to protect all the approaches to the city. We have our Cherusci assault infantry that are going to be the main front line, protecting, of course, both of the entrances to the city. On the right flank they are supported by Sweboz archers, as well as some of our flanking units such as our champions of Tevas that will try to swing around and hit the enemy in the rear. Meanwhile, on the left flank we have our cavalry unit supported by our Sweboz skirmishers or youth skirmishers, and of course we have the rest of our shock infantry. So that is pretty much the idea over here. This is, of course, the Roman army that has been raised from the event of turmoil in Italy, so it is a pretty significant force that we are fighting off against, and of course we are also depleted since we had recently taken over the settlement of Arretium, so we don't have our full army strength. But there you have it. We have some traps to kind of dish out as much casualties as we possibly can against enemy cavalry. The idea is to hope that all of these traps have been used so that when our own cavalry decides to perform rear charges, they're not caught up. Instead, of course, this cavalry is going to charge, and we do not have a Cherusci pikeman, so that means we are at a slight disadvantage, of course. But the Cherusci assault infantry should do quite well against this cavalry, especially considering that they couldn't get a very clean charge off against our unit, since, of course, it's a very narrow street, and narrow streets are actually not very good for cavalry because, of course, cavalry miss out on that maneuverability, and of course they do get slowed down a lot by the pathfinding, which kind of takes away from their charge impact. So that's kind of good. Already on the right flank you can see that some of the enemy cavalry is retreating. We're not going to try or attempt to chase down this these routing units. Ideally, if you can get them to below 30 men per unit, you can wipe them out from the field of battle, but we're not going to try to do that because we have a lot of elite units to deal with. Keep in mind that this is the scripted army that kind of spawns once you invade Italia or even Magna Graecia, and they are pretty professional armies. So they do have a lot of Hastati units, they do have a lot of Principe units, and they will even have Triarii units, so it's not going to be easy to deal with these guys. And as you can see, they are plentiful. They're pretty much just charging into, of course, my Cherusci assault infantry over here. However, fighting in these narrow streets nullify their numerical superiority and kind of allows me to stay over here for longer than what would be possible in an open field of battle. So fighting in settlements is, of course, a huge defensive advantage. Meanwhile, on that far right flank, you can see that some of our shock and flanking units are trying to move around in order to attack the enemy. We have also decided to move our archers around so that we can fire into the unshielded sides of the enemy units that are engaged over here. We have a couple of Principes over here, and we have quite a good number of shock units that we're going to try to flank these Principe units before they can even join the battle. And with that, we will have then a clear access to attack the enemy over here. Right now we have two fronts. We have this right hand side front with fewer enemy units, and of course we have this left hand side front, which is a bit more concerning because, as you can see, completely surrounded over here. Meanwhile, we're just trying to encircle the enemy as best as we can. We have to be really careful with our Hari troops, our Hari Night Strikers, as well as our Hari Night Walkers, because these guys come from only amber resource buildings, which means if we lose them, we have to recruit them all the way from Swabia and Loggia. And of course that is a long way off from the Italian peninsula, so I'm in no mood to actually lose these units. So I'm playing it really safe with them and charging in only when I know I can absolutely crush the enemy and absolutely defeat them. And meanwhile, even our Swaby veteran skirmishers are busy hurling their missiles into the enemy units. But of course, by rolling up onto that enemy flank, as you can see, we are managing to quickly rout out enemy units, which is absolutely great. Meanwhile, the situation over here, as you can see, we have managed to engage these Principe units. It's a pretty even fight. These guys are heavily armored. Meanwhile, our own units are very lightly armored, champions of Tivas, but they do have a lot of armor penetration value, which is actually really good against these units. Meanwhile, you can see some more cavalry units on the retreat, and all that's left is a single unit of Principe Samnitiki fighting off against our Cherusci assault infantry over here, and they are wavering as well, which is good news for us. Meanwhile, our archers over here in the rear trying to unleash their volleys onto the backs of the Principe units, which is really good that we actually spared some time to get our archers into a better position. Of course, it might seem counterintuitive that you're wasting your time, but in the long run it really helps to have your archers positioned in a better position to dish out a lot more damage against the enemy units. And as you can see, very quickly we're able to tip the scales over here, even though it seems like the melee combat is even. As you can see, our own champions of Tivas have also taken quite a bit of considerable losses because they miss out on that armor department, but very soon this is going to flip because, of course, our missile units are dishing out damage against the enemy unit, and This has a, exponential effect. Initially, it might seem like archers are not doing much, especially against a heavily armored unit, and that is of course because they are actually diminishing the armor and the health of that unit. But eventually what ends up happening is once they've dealt enough damage, then this unit will drop like flies. But realizing that the last of the enemy Principe Samnitiki that were holding up a lot of my assault infantry have kind of routed, I decide to actually relocate my archers to shoot into this mass of enemy units over here, and I decided to use my Cheruski assault infantry to rear charge against these Principe units. Keep in mind the combat is still quite even, and in fact in certain areas we are losing decisively. However, what we are going to do is we're going to follow that up with a rear charge, and that should kind of break the morale of these Principe units quite decisively. And there you have it. All of these guys are on the retreat now, and we have absolutely won the day on that right flank, and things are looking really good over here. Meanwhile, just have a look at some of these fighting animations. Really beautiful stuff, and of course it looks even greater with the submods that I'm using, namely the legendary Empires by Zulu Alexander. The guy's done amazing work, guys. He has really overhauled a lot of factions, Hellenic factions, Carthage as well, and of course even the Roman factions were his primary focus. But for now, I think he is even working on barbarian factions, which should be really interesting to see, because of course we don't have a lot of barbarian HD mods out there, and what that will do is it will actually almost completely HD the whole game, which I'm really looking forward to. However, with that, of course, we have managed to even surround the enemy on this left flank, and a lot of them are going to retreat. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue the battle. Of course, I'm not going to showcase that because we have a plethora of Roman troops that are retreating, and they're surrounded on all sides, which means we can actually wipe out a lot of them and significantly weaken this army that has been raised due to the script, and gain some more forward momentum in our offensive into Latium, of course. And with that, we managed to defeat the reinforcing army. It was quite a decisive victory. Only 600 men lost. We managed to kill 2,300 men instead, and of course they have some few troops remaining, mostly Hastati, a singular Equites, and of course a Principe unit and a Velite. So it's a pretty good battle all in all. We're gonna go ahead, keep enslaving these captives, and I will see you all in the next turn. Alright, welcome to the next turn. General has leveled up. Of course, he has taken quite a lot of casualties due to the fact that, of course, he just fought a battle, took over Arretium, had to fight that reinforcing army. Meanwhile, our main general over here is almost completely replenished. What we're going to try to do is attack this army over here quickly, and it should retreat just within range of Roma, so we could actually gain Roma in this episode itself. Meanwhile, over here we could go ahead and attack. I don't see any Roman fleet, so we could actually take out Asculum as well. That's going to be a very powerful thing to do. Quick look at Janua. We don't have a lot of population class, so what we are going to do is move back towards Batavium, go ahead and deploy that in a patrol stance so that he can replenish in this turn. Just a quick look to see. As you can see, we have a decent amount of garrison troops, so that's looking quite good. Meanwhile, we can repair this building. Go ahead. Over here we need something that will give us the maximum public order as possible, so definitely the Shrine of Frijo. Let's go ahead, build that, dismantle these buildings, and very soon we're going to attack this army over here. It should be reinforced by Roma, the settlement or the garrison from Roma, which means we will be able to take out the settlement really easily, and we could in fact even take out Asculum if we play our cards right. Not entirely sure. 20 stack, and these guys are pretty low, so it's not going to be an easy battle, but we're going to fight it because we stand a lot to gain if we do that. However, before we do that, let's take a quick look at all of our provinces. Things are looking good. Our fleet up north can deal with the piracy situation, but first we're going to dock him in Flevum, and then eventually we're going to attack him. quick look at our characters. Really quick, we have this last character over here that still needs to be leveled up, so we're going to improve her zeal just one more, and then in the next turn we will be able to promote her completely. Meanwhile, faction leader can educate some character as well, so let's go ahead and do that. And of course, our faction heir, we are going to send a gift to the least a loyal political party so as to improve his gravitas. 197, we are almost catching up to Childebrand, so things are looking quite good as far as that is concerned. Meanwhile, we can send this character over here. Honestly, no, I'm more interested in the characters that are in our control. We can send them to improve the public order in Latium, so that is looking quite good. Now, if I go ahead and attack this army, can I actually reach Roma in the same turn? Yeah, I definitely will need to attack this army for sure. Because I can't just take Roma directly. They might just move towards Arretium, and that could be a little bit problematic. Although I could take Roma, move this army towards Arretium, and then we could have a pretty epic siege of Roma itself. However, I think this battle is definitely going to be a lot harder, but a lot better to do. Apart from that, politics looking fine, so pretty happy. We're about the halfway mark to Imperium level 5. Let's actually go ahead and attack, but before we do that, we are going to commit to this strategy. We are going to move towards Asculum. Go ahead, attack the settlements. Decent auto-resolve, not the best, but we can just simply auto-resolve it, sack the settlement, and then loot it. So that's a lot more money, and then we can stay in the port of Asculum to replenish, of course, and then we're going to repair the buildings that we need, dismantle the buildings that we don't need. Great. Apart from that, a quick look at, of course, our cultural conversion is starting to pick up because Roma is losing control of the province of Latium. They do have the final settlement of Roma itself, which we are going to take shortly. Meanwhile, we can see if we can actually use our spy to kind of assassinate this character, because that would kind of help. So let's see. It's an opportune failure, unfortunately. We're going to keep moving our spy down south because we want to get bit more line of sight of what's happening south in Magna Graecia, of course. And now, the long awaited moment, we are going to lay siege to Roma, but not lay siege really. We're going to attack this army outside the settlement of Roma, defeat the garrison outside the settlement of Roma, and then just attack Roma. Hopefully we will have enough movement range to do so. So let's just go ahead, attack it. Of course, if we select the night battle, then this garrison army will not reinforce, so we're not going to be fighting in the night time. What that means is that our morale penalties is not going to apply that significantly. However, I feel we can win this one, guys. Alright, welcome to the long-awaited moment. We are fighting the Battle of Roma against the depleted army that had procced due to the turmoil in Italy. And of course, we are also enticing the Roman garrison within the settlement of Roma itself to sally forth and attack us. Should give us a considerable advantage over here. Keep in mind that this army has, will most likely be completely wiped out. And of course, our main focus is going to be on the garrison of Roma itself. We're going to try to wipe them out manually, completely, so that when we attack Roma after this battle, it should be quite an easy auto-resolve. But as you have it, thanks to our Germanic guerrilla deployment, we're able to move up all of our troops as quickly as possible and deal with this preliminary army as quickly as possible, because that is the objective. We're going to try to crush this army entirely, and then of course we notice that the Roman reinforcements are coming in from our left, so we're going to try to realign our front line to face that incoming Roman garrison reinforcement, of course. Very quickly you can see that this army has been significantly weakened due to our previous battle against them in our defense of Arretium, of course. So it's not going to be really tough to dispatch of these units, but we still want to be decisive and quick so that we can realign our units to face off against the reinforcements. So what we're going to do, we initially realized that these guys are not really engaging us, so we decide to take the attack to them, which is also in our favor because we are really focused on charge damage, which is really good. There we have it, our Cheruski assault infantry just charging into the enemy, and they are going to try to do as much damage as possible against the enemy units. Meanwhile, over here, I have no fear actually engaging my cavalry in melee, because my main objective is to wrap up this enemy army as quickly as I possibly can. And for that, as you can see, we are already engaging in a lot of cavalry maneuvers so that we can deal with this army as quickly as possible as well. Over here, we have charged our cavalry. We could have done that a little bit better if we charged from multiple angles. However, even two units against one cavalry unit will be quite decisive, especially since this cavalry didn't get a clean charge. Means we're not going to be taking a lot of losses, and in fact we're going to be winning decisively, killing off all of this Roman cavalry, which is going to be really good for us. Most of the times the enemy AI realizes that it's losing this engagement, tries to pull out, and ironically that's actually in fact worse for it, because it's going to take a lot more damage. Keep in mind that if a unit is retreating, they're going to take a lot more damage. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to wipe out this unit as quickly as possible so that it cannot return to the battlefield. Of course, a cavalry unit can always be annoying. Meanwhile, in our army, of course, the situation back on the front line is looking really good. We're managing to quickly rout out most of the enemy units. We do have a unit of Triarii over here that we are going to try to rout out, attacking them from multiple sides with the exposed flanks towards us. So things are looking quite good as far as that initial army is concerned, but as you can see, a lot of the enemy reinforcements are slowly trickling into the battle, and they've almost made it to our front lines. So we haven't really been able to deal with this enemy army as quickly as I had hoped for, but still I managed to form up my front line. So what do you want to do in such a situation is that you want to form up your front line, but you want to run a little bit away from the enemy, so that buys you a little bit more time to form up that front line, so that you don't want to be aggressive anymore. There's no real need for it right now. You just want to stabilize your front lines in order to prepare for just what's left of the Roman effort to counter your attack. And because of that, I do have the freedom of deciding where my front line is going to be. So that's pretty much what I am going to try to do. Over here, I wouldn't really recommend what I'm doing, of course. I am using my general to kind of be a little bit more offensive and charge into this unit, but of course I am exposing my general really to the entire enemy garrison, and of course to a lot of the missile units. So we take a little bit of losses, but what I am also going to do over here is just charge in my Cherusci assault infantry, since they've already used all of their precursor javelins, and we're going to try to pin down the enemy. And over there you can see that I've very cleverly moved our general in the opposite direction of the charge. And now a very good reason to do that sort of maneuver is that if you try to move a unit through a unit, there's going to be a lot of pathfinding issues which kind of slow down the unit. However, if both units are moving in the opposite direction, then they actually move very smooth, and you can easily switch the positions of those units. So just keep in mind that's a very good micromanagement tip that you can use. Meanwhile, all the way around over here, you can see some of our cavalry is moving in behind the enemy front lines. We are going to try to charge into some of these enemy missile units and take them out from the field of battle, of course. Most of the enemy front lines have been engaged. We are basically encircling the enemy on that left flank. They seem to be a little bit weaker over here, so we have no problems charging in our champions of T-Vice in order to attack these units. Of course, they are going to be able to do quite a lot of damage against these units. Completely rout them out, of course. But these units are Italian swordsmen. They're the best garrison units available, of course, to the Roman factions. But as you can see, if they decide to turn around and attack our flanking forces, they are going to be attacked in the back with archers, and there's not much they can do about it. They're going to quickly rout out. And of course, the champions of Levies are going to get some pretty massive kills over here from the retreating enemy. Wow, that was a beautiful animation. Actually took that guy's leg off. Completely savage over there. However, as you can see, some of the Romans still fighting, still resilient, especially in the center of the front lines. But it's pretty much a done deal over here with this battle. There's nothing much they can do. They're completely and absolutely surrounded. We have taken some casualties, but we have fought this battle really well. We have retained at least about 85% of our army, so we haven't lost that much in the grand scheme of things. Meanwhile, we are just going to charge in our final Cherusci assault infantry, as well as, of course, all of our shock units in an attempt to completely break and shatter the Roman army. And there you have it. The Roman garrison is completely shattered. They are retreating, but I'm not going to end the battle, because keep in mind, I want to wipe out as much of the Roman garrison as possible, so that my auto resolve against the city of Roma is going to be as decisive as possible. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep continuing battle, keep running down as many enemy units as we possibly can, keep fighting, keep attacking, and of course I'm not going to showcase that because that's just simply going to take a lot of time. And with that, the battle is of course done. Quite a good victory, and we have pretty much Roma in the bag. The long-awaited goal, of course, of this episode is, of course, to conquer the eternal city of Roma. Alright, that was a massive, decisive victory. We were almost outnumbered 2-1. We managed to wipe out a lot of units. We lost only 222 units, so I'm starting to get a good feel for this army, of course. Quick look to see what's remained. We just have 4 units remaining in the garrison, and they're significantly depleted. Meanwhile, in Legio 11 Apollinaris, the illustrious Legio that was raised when Italy is in turmoil, all that remains is a singular Samnite mercenary unit. So we're going to go ahead and enslave all the captives. These guys should retreat closer towards Roma, but now it is time to just attack Roma straight on, and the auto-resolve should be absolutely amazing. So we're going to go ahead and auto-resolve this one and conquer the settlement of Roma. It's 98%. Let's go for that protective stance, wipe out the army outside Roma, of course. And we do not have enough movement range to sack as well as loot the settlement. And of course, as you can tell, our public order is looking really bad at the moment in Latium, which means we could have a rebellion on our hands in the next turn. So I think ideally what would be required is to raise the settlement, because this actually gives a positive public order. So let's actually go ahead, raise the settlement. And what we actually need from the settlement as far as buildings is nothing that we can use. So raising does seem to be the best logical option. As you can see now, we're gaining +7 public order. What we're going to go ahead is repair the settlement of Roma itself, and then we are going to focus, of course, on that sewage ditch to increase our growth per turn, and we are going to build another temple in order to help promote the cultural conversion in this province. We could build another farm building, and over here what I'm thinking of doing is actually kind of trying to showcase the future potential of food generation, of course, but that's not going to be possible for now, of course, as we will have to end the episode. It's been quite a long episode, but we will have to end it quite soon enough. We do have this trait which we cannot use on any character just yet. However, what we can do is send the character that we are leveling up. Okay, she is on a mission, which means we will need another character, perhaps some of the youngest characters. We can go ahead and send this character to... Alright, we can't really improve the public order in Roma because I think we've already done that. However, things are looking quite good. We are going to move our dignitaries towards Beneventum, try to culturally convert that province as well. Quick look and see the cultural conversion in Roma seems to be quite good, but we are going to retain at least one dignitary in the province of Roma itself to keep helping with that cultural conversion, of course. With that, we can go ahead and end the turn, and I will see you all in the next turn, which will definitely be our final turn of this episode. Alright, welcome back to what would be the final turn of this episode. We're going to go ahead, turn off all of the notifications, have a look and see if any characters can be promoted and leveled up. I think we just need this character to get its final level of zeal, and then we can send her on a vacation to acquire some cunning. Meanwhile, a quick look at our faction leader, if he can educate anyone. He cannot at the moment. So it seems like things are fine as far as politics is concerned. We can even use our faction heir to improve the loyalty of that party and gain a little bit more gravitas. 207, 217, so he's definitely catching up. Meanwhile, a quick look at the provinces over here. We can go ahead, dismantle that building, build a couple of these farms over here. Go ahead, build that as well. Upgrade Roma. We do have a singular fleet over here, and I don't think that's going to be too much of a difficulty against, of course, the settlement. Even though we don't have a sizable garrison, we can actually just move our army all the way across to Asculum. I think that is the play, and then we can move this army over here towards Beneventum. keep moving our spy across. We want to get in line of sight, see if there are any nearby Roman armies. And kind of good news is that the Antagonists have secured Apollonia, which means the Romans have been entirely kicked off from the Balkans. We're going to have a look at the diplomacy of the Antagonists, see who are they exactly at war with. They're at war with Pergamon, Seleucia, and so yeah, nothing much going to happen over here. It's quite a deadlock. Kind of like how the Hellenic world has shaped out. They managed to survive the Roman onslaught, of course, and that's thanks to us, really. Meanwhile, we don't have any replenishment potential over here, so yeah, it's not going to look that good. But what we can do regardless is just go on that patrol stance to kind of help a little bit with the public order, of course, in that province. Let's take a quick look at all of our buildings. Of course, Ratia at Norica has leveled up, which is great, which means we are going to build another warrior lodge over here, and we're going to go ahead and dismantle the one over here, replace it with another outpost. So things are looking good. Once we gain a couple more armies, I am going to focus on taking over Alalia. And with that, I should be able to even redirect my shieldmaker to that province. So as far as production and building construction is concerned, we have done everything that we need. We could end this episode right now, but I think the play would be to actually go ahead and attack Beneventum. That is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to attack it, perhaps get a decent auto-resolve. There we have it. It's a fairly decent auto-resolve, and I don't think there are any nearby Roman armies, so we can go ahead, just auto-resolve this one. We can sack the settlement and we can loot it, so we can do the double thing in order to... There we go, perfect. And we could move this army all the way up north towards Arretium, so that he can replenish with some of the population that we have acquired in Latium, in Arretium to be specific. Meanwhile, a quick look at Beneventum. We can go ahead. Food is looking to be quite good. Our economy is bustling, really. So what we can do over here is we can just dismantle all of these buildings, turn off the taxation, of course, and we're going to repair this building and then reconstruct it so that we gain that maximum garrison, of course. The character of Harjas to Tincterijos has improved, and I think I've made a mistake over here, because definitely I was supposed to get the Dread Marauders. I think I have these Stalwart Heart Defenders, unfortunately. So yeah, I will fix that. I mean, using Save Parser, because I would like to have the right army traditions. But for now, what we're going to focus on is the Fura Germanicus, of course, and the Wolves of Tevas. So let's just get that, and we'll definitely fix that in the episode between, in the turns between the episodes, of course. However, with that, let's take a quick look at our overall tactical map. Before we conclude today's episode, we have made some significant gains. So this campaign has been super explosive. In about the first episode, we managed to wipe out the Boii, almost consolidate the entirety of Swabia. In the second episode, we consolidated Germania, Hyrcania. In the third episode, we consolidated all of the Germanic heartlands. Fourth episode, Raetia, of course, and Cisalpina. And in the fifth episode, although it might not seem like a significant amount of territorial gain, we have managed to conquer the entirety of Latium and even gain a foothold in Magna Graecia. Ultimately, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to secure Magna Graecia, get towards Sicily. Hopefully the Ptolemies will be able to push, and it seems like they have managed to secure the province of Leptis Magna, but I'm pretty sure that they'll be kind of like a stalemate here, because the Romans do have a fleet in the area that they will use to snipe out Euphrantia. Just as the Ptolemaic armies move back and forth between settlements, the Romans will pretty much just snipe those settlements back, because the AI Romans actually have a huge auto-resolve bonus, so they will be able to, pretty much keep Egypt in a deadlock. But that's looking really well for me for now, because the Romans are actually very, very distracted, so we can easily acquire all of the provinces they own in the Italian region, including Alalia, of course. And then if things are looking quite stable, I might just station an army over here to protect Sicilia from possible Roman invasions, and then I'm just going to focus on moving into Hispania and take out Roman control of Hispania. So that's going to be a very interesting future of this series, of course. However, with that, I am going to go ahead and end the video. So I hope you all liked it, and if you liked the video, then like it, and don't forget to subscribe if you are interested for more. Peace and love.